So this next section is thinking habits. Thinking habits can take a while to rearrange, basically because our brain is not too dissimilar from a computer, and especially in our early years, our operating system basically gets all the information from our environment, and it starts to become subconscious. And if you get a bad input, then the output later in life will also be bad. There's a saying, garbage in, garbage out, in IT lingo, and this is no real difference in a human brain. So thoughts affect the body much more than you can imagine. Thoughts actually manifest as traumas in the muscles a lot of the times, and you'll find people have some deep massage work, also some structural work, and the release of this body work will actually release a psychological trauma or some psychological issues. Something not really talked about in mainstream medicine, definitely very, very popular and understood in alternative medicine. So yeah, thoughts very, very much affect the body much more than you can think. So some basic good rules for thinking. There's some excellent moral standards and good thinking tips in the Bible. It's not an old-fashioned book. There's some very worthy things in the Bible. So 10 Commandments, obviously, excellent. The Golden Rule, fantastic. The Golden Rule is basically treat others how you would like to be treated. If you can think about that when you're with other people, it will really, really help build relationships. Another important thing is to take full responsibility for everything. This is difficult for a lot of people because a lot of people are victimized by their health, victimized by feel like a victim to the government, feel like a victim to their upbringing. But the simple thing is you have full control over your mind. For the most part, you have full control over your body, and taking full responsibility for everything that's happened to you is actually very empowering. And when you think to yourself, okay, I'm going to take full responsibility for everything that's happened in my life, for everything that is happening, it actually makes you feel quite powerful and gives you a drive to make good quality, wholesome, positive changes. So victims are powerless, angry, resentful, and unforgiving. Obviously the opposite of taking responsibility. Victim thinking doesn't get you very far at all. It just makes the body more unhealthy, lowers your self-esteem, brings you out of your own power. So taking full responsibility then obviously empowers you. And if you've got a problem that's developed and you have created it, obviously if you've created it, you can 100% do something to fix it. So that's about taking full responsibility. It might take a while to explore the choices that you've got, but you have the ability to make them. As long as you're conscious, you have the ability to make new choices. You will always have the power to forgive, you'll always have the power to let go, and you'll always have the power to move on. And knowing this is very empowering. It's extremely easy to fall into the victim trap. Even I slip up now of it's not my fault, this. I can't help how I feel. Especially when you're going through healing reactions, it's so easy to think in terms of victim, or when something bad happens to you. But one important thing to remember is that you are in control of your feelings, and you do have the opportunity to make a new choice and empower yourself. You can always make new choices. A good thing to do is try and think wholesomely. Is this wholesome? Am I doing wholesome things? And when you're not thinking wholesomely, your lower impulses and your ego tend to take the forward role. So these include things like anger, lust, greed, selfishness, desire to control, etc., etc. So easy to fall into these lower impulses. A good thing to do is try and think about helping other people. Try and put other people first, so you're not caught up in your own kind of world too much. When you are, you tend to, give in to these lower impulses of desire. That definitely doesn't get you any further. It often sends you backwards. When you take full responsibility for yourself, when you start being very self-disciplined, you'll generally find that things go much smoother. You have much more self-respect, and obviously not playing the victim role. So lower impulses keep our altitude low. They say that your attitude is also your altitude. So that's really important. Try to be aware of unwholesome thoughts and substitute them for more healthful ones. The pushing down exercise is an excellent way of becoming aware of unwholesome thoughts. If you do the pushing down exercise enough, when you're not doing it, you'll tend to find yourself catching yourself when the mind is thinking unwholesome thoughts, and they can actually be quite comical. The thoughts. Believe it or not, you actually laugh at some of the things that the ego tends to put in front of you. It's quite funny. So gently let go of any friends who expose you to coarse, angry, negative and selfish people who engage in unwholesome activities. These people do not have your best interests at heart. They obviously don't have their own best interests at heart. It's not beneficial for you. It's not actually beneficial for them. The mature and healthy thing is to let go of these situations and try and find something much more wholesome. So there are plenty of people seeking a pure, wholesome life. I know it doesn't seem that way, but I can assure you they are out there. What it does, though, it takes a little bit of work to go out there and find them. One thing that I like to do is I like to go into alternative shops, cafes, meetup.com. Different apps actually are coming out now to help you connect with certain people. Write down a list of things that you're interested in, and just turn up. Just go to these events. I understand people can be quite sick and not wanting to go out. I urge yourself to try and build some sort of relationship with good quality people, even if it's over the internet. You'll generally find that you'll feel much better about yourself. So try to think in a positive direction. Thinking negatively doesn't get you anywhere. One issue with thinking positive is people tend to ignore the truth. They think that everything's positive all the time, when in reality, some things are actually, not very good. So, think positive, but don't obviously ignore reality, as many people tend to do when they take on this positive thinking attitude. So what it means, it just means inferring or implying negative outcomes when really you don't know the whole picture. So yeah, a lot of people just assume that there's going to be a negative outcome, when in reality they really just do not know how things are going to pan out. So those people that think all black are really not seeing the beauty and complexity of the world and the creator, which is understandable. A lot of, we do get brought up not really appreciating nature, appreciating the world around us, appreciating the complexity and beauty of relationships. Health, toxins, toxic metals all have an effect on how you view the world and how positively you interact with the world. I would urge you to try and get out more in nature, in gardens. Learn about science, learn about spirituality, learn about how to form good quality relationships with people. The world isn't all black, as many people think it is. All you got to do is turn on the TV for an hour on some of the mainstream news channels, and you'll come away thinking that the world is horrible and black and deadly and not a nice place to live. It is actually nice if you stick to some rules. So just be aware of that. So try to think of things from a spiritual perspective. People who think in physical terms will eventually become depressed because all physical things are impermanent. Buddhists and monks are obviously up on this a lot. At the end of the day, the physical world is impermanent. It will disappear. There's no point in thinking that if you have a house, you're going to be happy. If you have a better car, you're going to be happy. Doesn't mean certain things you shouldn't strive to get, but just realize that at the end of the day, they will not, quote unquote, make you happy. Happiness comes from a different place. A lot of it's to do with self-respect, thinking patterns, realizing the truth of reality. You'll generally find the more that you're trying to gain and acquire, it's not necessarily going to make you happier. Actually, removing things, letting go of things, living a much more simple life, getting in touch with things that are much more truthful and long-lasting, things like love, compassion for people, obviously the golden rule, good quality fun, play. These things are much more real and tangible and long-lasting, and much more better to kind of strive for, rather than acquiring physical stuff. I like to call it stuff. It's just pretty meaningless. So sometimes appearances are not the same as reality. The media outlets are masters at this. As I just said, turn on the news for half an hour. They'll give you an appearance of something that's not actually reality. I'll give you an example of this. A recession actually is not all as bad as you think. A recession can actually allow a person to slow down, save money, think about what money really is, learn to live a simple life, learn to live below their means. Being in that mindset brings people closer together. So you hear a lot of bad things, but in reality, it's not the bigger picture. Obviously, often it's not as bad as what people think. A great way is to surround yourself by upbeat and happy people. It's kind of like a shortcut to your own kind of health and happiness. The pushing down exercise is great for more deeper forms of negativity. The more you do this, the deeper you start getting inside your mind. I see the mind really as like a filing cabinet that's not been filed or organised very well for many years. And at the back of the filing cabinet, you have these kind of old, deep traumas and deep thoughts because of something that happened when you was younger. And the more you do the pushing down exercise, the front of the filing cabinet tends to file itself and organise itself, and then you get further and further back and deeper and deeper and deeper, and then you can get kind of down some root causes. Not pretty experiences for a lot of people, but just if you realise that these things are holding you back, it's much better to try and tackle them at some point than kind of leave them lingering and festering and causing you to not live the life that you deserve. Helps sort out facts from false perceptions. It brings out an honest positivity. This is what the pushing down exercise does. It helps sort out facts from false perceptions about reality, and this brings a kind of wholesome, honest, grounded, truthful kind of positivity. That's a much better way of approaching things. So try and let go of grudges and resentments. It just does nothing for you. It just holds you back. It's kind of like a weight or a little kind of angry, irritating itch. It doesn't do nothing. Just let go of it and move on. Holding on to grudges and negative thoughts lead to degeneration, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and others. I see a lot of elderly people that have a lot of grudges and negative attitudes and victim thinking. You can just tell that they're much more, they tend to be much more unhealthy. Their posture seems to be much more tense and hunched. you know, they tend to get a lot of health problems, etc., etc. You know, they really, as mentioned before, thoughts affect the body. So if you have any negative thoughts, they will slowly seep into the body and cause some issues that are very, very difficult to rewind. So another good attitude is try and learn to let go and forgive people. This is very empowering and healing. Forgiving another person, you know, it doesn't necessarily you're going to forget about things that they've done, but just forgive them for what they've done. At the end of the day, if you're taking full responsibility for yourself, you're not going to be a victim to anyone's past actions. So just forgive them and move on. Very empowering. So forgiving, obviously, yeah, forgiving means moving on and letting others go their own way in peace. Another good attitude is to cultivate gratitude. Gratitude is a very healthy attitude. If you can recognize that all of life is a gift, like a grand teaching platform, the most amazing, complex, beautiful teaching arena ever to be made. You know, you tend to be very grateful for the opportunities, good or bad. If you kind of stick to the rules that nature has set out for us, you will live a much more happier and healthier life. Any bad things that happen in your life really are just learning lessons. They just teach you what the truth is. So in reality, it's a gift. It's teaching you. Often the hard times on a deep level are transforming you, which is a true gift. So another good thing to do is to think in a broad-minded way. Think on a bigger picture. Everything's not narrow. Most people are actually very narrow-minded. Therefore, it's important to think of the bigger picture. Try and open your mind and use some logic. You really need to be a logician in the 21st century. Just think in terms of logic. You know, is this logical? Many times it's just not logical. So yeah, try and think logically and question everything. You know, be wary about everything that people say about what they get you to do. Not in a paranoid sense, but just realize that the truth is hidden. The truth is kept away from us for the most part. So it is important to question things. And also try and be open to many sides of the issue. If you try and get loads of different opinions and kind of be open to that, then your kind of intuition, that small inner voice from within, will send you in the right direction for the most part. So that's very important. Don't just like look at one thing and see it as truth, as it can get you into some problems.